Hello and welcome to the Warhammies. Today we're just going to be covering the recent dev blog which covers the updates to HAVOC coming in the Nightmares and Visions update. If you enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe. All support goes a really long way in helping make more content. So let's jump straight into the changes coming to HAVOC. So firstly, there's a rank overhaul coming. What they're really doing is kind of, they were worried about boosting initially when it came out, but with this update, they're changing it so everyone who participates in a HAVOC game will actually rank up their assignment rank rather than, the initial, oh, well, I've done a rank 30, I better just sit here now for the rest of the week until it resets. That no longer happens. So they've come up with a little chart for it. And essentially it also means those kind of balancing, because we've all had those cases where you're hosting a mission and suddenly someone leaves and boop, oh, great, you're down to 3 and you know the mission's going to fail because you need that extra person. Well, this also makes it fair, so everyone who's participating in a mission for HAVOC will now be penalised upon failure. So that means they're going to lose a charge for their missions. Essentially, it's also to allow them to feel rewarded. Whether these changes are good or not is going to be interesting to see. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I don't think it's a full fix to the HAVOC problems. Essentially what they're doing is changing how many ranks a player is going to climb after completing a HAVOC mission. So this is determined by the difference between the actual person hosting the mission and the person joining. So they've got a bit of a chart here that I'm showing on screen now. The main thing is, all you need to know is a gap of less than or equal to 5 ranks gives an increase of 1 clearance level. A gap between 6 and 9 gives an increase of 2 clearance levels. And a gap greater than or equal to 10 gives an increase of 3 clearance levels. So this is the main thing. If you're rank 15 joining a rank 25 mission, you'll bump up to rank 18 when you pass your mission. So you don't have to wait to the end of the week to bump up. To stop someone from joining a rank 40 HAVOC and being boosted by their friends, essentially. Personally, it's a little bit too late for that. I think everyone's already got the titles, those who wanted to do all of that. I mean, I got to HAVOC rank 30, I think, and I was happy with that. I got the Mobian cosmetics, and that was okay. After that, kind of the additional HAVOC bits, I'm not bothered about titles or anything like that. I mean, I'm just aiming for the budding interrogator. Just a pain that I've had to reset my account over to Steam. But other than that, the main thing is, I think it's a step in the right direction for HAVOC, this sort of change, because there was that issue of just, if you were joining other people's games to get those challenges done, well, you just sit there for a week and wouldn't, you do one game and be like, there's no point playing now, I'm going to jump up 10 levels. So it's a nice change in the right direction, but along with Nightmares and Visions, they're also introducing something called HAVOC, called campaigns. And it's what they've opted to call the rotations of the mission pools and mutators within HAVOC. Essentially, they want players to be able to learn and adapt to these combinations while also changing things up over the period of a HAVOC campaign. And apparently it'll begin from this update. I think the main thing is what they're talking about here. It's about the mutators that are going to be cycling through, that each campaign will reflect a certain level of mutators. I think that's what they're kind of getting along here. It's not overly clear, but I appreciate we'll see it when it comes through. HAVOC is also going to be unavailable between Sunday, March 23rd and March 25th. So update launches on March 25th, so it'll be down for a few days prior. They're going to reset everyone depending on their nearest threshold. So if you rank 31 to 40, post-reset on Nightmares and Visions, you're going to be rank 30. Why they're doing that, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, probably to get people to back climbing. But the main thing I want to talk about during this video is really the new mutators coming. Now, this was something that I talked about in the previous video I discussed on all of this. And yeah, it's a mixed bag, I think, for these. The first one is Heinous Rituals. I think this is a fantastic looking modifier because it changes something about the game. So its reports indicate that the Admonition has begun creating more demon hosts in this area. Disrupt these rituals before it's too late. This is in my mind of a step in the right direction for mutators. It utilises an idea that actually demon hosts are a threat currently, but competent players, if there's one sat in the path, you know how to avoid it. This will force players to have to push a point to quickly deal with the enemies summoning the demon host. Otherwise, I'm assuming it'll attack you. That's a change I like to see. That is something that kind of makes it that moment of you're fighting your way through hordes and suddenly go, there's a ritual happening over there. I need to stop that. And it kind of adds that next level of kind of strategy to your gameplay. But moving on to the other mutators, so the Encroaching Gardens is marked enemies will heal affected allies in proximity. If these enemies are not dealt with quickly, they will rapidly regenerate the enemy forces. Yeah, I think this one is going to go the same way as buffed up range damage snipers, where you couldn't kill them because they had a range damage negation. I think this is going to be a problem. It'd be interesting to see if this can only go on set enemies, but the last thing you want is a line of gunners. It depends how strong this healing is. If it's like slow time healing that can, counters damage over time, maybe it's a way to counter the flamethrowers on Psyker and Zealot. My only worry is this is going to turn into one of those points of a standoff between rejects who are hiding behind some cover gunners who are hiding behind some cover and it's just trading shots until you're out of ammo. That would be my worry. The hope is it's not, and it'd be interesting to see that potentially you've got those priority targets. I'll wait and see for that one. The next one along is rampaging enemies. Enemies in this sector are rampaging. They grow emboldened upon witnessing the death of another kind and gaining increased defense against attacks. So this one's kind of a mixed bag again. It'd be interesting to see how it's implemented. With the kind of, hopefully means that players will have to have a bit more of a target priority when dealing with enemies within a horde, because if it's one of those things where you kind of slaughter a horde and suddenly the crusher is 10 times stronger, obviously it's going to force you to deal with those priority targets. However, I'm a little bit worried this is just going to make everything an absolute tank and powerhouse. And I mentioned in the last video, my worry was making enemies bullet sponges isn't a fun modifier. Occasionally, it's not bad, but something like this could potentially cause problems. The one below, however, Enraging Elites. Now, I like the look of this. Elite enemies upon taking critical damage become enraged, increasing their attack speed, movement speed, and give them complete CC, crowd control, immunity. Now, I think the best way to kind of describe this is actually for those players who played Killing Floor, looking at a Flesh Pound, when you enrage it, or a Scrake. There were certain enemies in the games when you got them down to a certain level of health, they would just like rush you. That's what I like to see. I think this one is going to be an absolute monster when rages are activated on it. It's going to be horrible. And it'd be interesting to see the actual increase in movement speed and attack speed, because maulers might become a genuine threat if they're sprinting at you with their mauls held up. It'd be really, really interesting to see how that also affects the Ogryn enemies. But again, I like the idea of that. That is a fun sort of modifier tweaking to the game. The only one I'm really worried about is encroaching gardens and rampaging enemies, and whether these stack and kind of if there's diminishing returns on those stacks. But these 4 mutators are currently replaced the current 4 in HAVOC, and I assume that kind of links back into the campaigns, that each time there's a HAVOC campaign, there's potentially new mutators that you've got to face and play with, which again is a new way to kind of change up the endgame mode. But it'd be nice to see some of these mutators potentially actually showcasing in other missions. They haven't mentioned anything at the moment whether that's the case, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know how I feel about some of these changes, in all honesty. New mutators seem cool, the HAVOC campaign is alright, and I do like the quality of life changes, in the sense that people can't just sit there for a week without their HAVOC level going up. It's actually quite nice to see those changes, and I think if HAVOC could come out that way, you'd probably get a lot more people willing to join games. But for now, I'll kind of wait with bated breath on this one. I think some of the HAVOC stuff looks good, but again, some of these mutators I'm a little bit worried about that it's going to be a rinse repeat of buffed up ranged enemies. We will see. That is it for today, guys. It's a very brief update and a very brief devlog on the HAVOC changes. Hopefully we'll get one in the new game mode coming just before the update pops, and I'll try and get some cover on that. I know the Ogryn build has a calculator out currently that you can use to kind of plan builds, but I'm going to wait till it lands in the actual game before I get some updated builds out for you guys. I hope you all have a good day. I'll catch you in the next one.